Father Time spares no one. Try as you might, but age will eventually catch up to you. And NFLers know this better than anybody else. But sometimes a star player can start to regress slowly and then eventually retire one day without you even realizing it. The NFL is known for having quite the bit of a turnover rate due to the nature of the sport, but once a player makes his name in the league, fans can sort of get lulled into a false sense of security that, hey, they're always going to be around. But, of course, time rages on, and every player eventually succumbs to Father Time. And if the guy doesn't play on your favorite team or doesn't do a massive retirement tour, sometimes they can almost drift off into the sunset. So without further ado, let us take a look back at who has called it quits over the last couple of years and revisit 10 NFL stars that you already forgot are retired. Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly was one of the single best linebackers of his generation. It's just a shame that he played his entire career with the Carolina Panthers, where he never really got to shine that you would expect for a guy that went from Defensive Rookie of the Year to Defensive Player of the Year in his first 2 seasons in the league. Kuechly led the league in tackles multiple times and made both All-Pro and Pro Bowl every year except one. Unfortunately, his continuous struggles with head injuries forced him into retirement in early 2020 at the relatively young age of 29. Frank Gore. Frank Gore spent years and years shocking NFL fans with his continued persistence and consistency. This is because he played significantly longer than the typical expiration for an NFL player, let alone one that plays running back. You know, one of the positions with the shortest lifespan in the entire league. Anyway, the longtime 49ers running back broke into the league in 2005 when San Fran took him in the 3rd round of the 2005 NFL Draft, and had been a force to be reckoned with ever since. After all, you don't get to 16,000 career rushing yards by accident. Frank Gore was longevity personified. We're talking about a guy who didn't retire until the conclusion of the 2020 season, which he played with the New York Jets. And even in a diminished role, he still found a way to contribute, accumulating over 650 yards and notching 2 touchdowns as part of the Jets running back platoon. Of course, he wasn't the same guy that we saw earn All-Pro honors during his 2nd year in the league when he ran for 1,695 yards and 8 touchdowns while hauling in 61 receptions for an additional 485 yards and 1 touchdown. But I mean, how could he be? That was well over a decade later. Either way, the point is that Frank Gore played in the NFL at a high level for a very long time. And though it has been 2 years since he retired now, it's still kind of bizarre to check the NFL scoreboard on Sundays and not see Gore's name somewhere. AJ Green. AJ Green's NFL career started back in 2011 when the Cincinnati Bengals took him with the 4th overall pick in the draft. Though he had relatively modest cumulative numbers as a Bulldog, the University of Georgia alum was a surefire top pick in the draft, based on what he did during the 9 games he played during his final year on campus. Between the tape from the 2010 season and the elite athleticism the 6'4" receiver put on display at the NFL Combine, someone was going to take him early. Luckily for Cincy, they were the ones to do so. Green started off his career going for over 1,000 yards in 6 of his first 7 NFL seasons, and the 1 year he did miss, he played just 10 games. Unfortunately for Green and the Bengals, the injuries started to wear on the All-Pro receiver. A toe injury cost him a chunk of his 2018 season, and he missed the entire 2019 season with an ankle injury. This started a quiet cascade for Green, as his production continued to dwindle each of his remaining seasons in the league before he finally called it quits this past offseason after a 236-yard season-long output in 2022, during which he looked like a shell of his former self. Devin McCourty. Over the course of the New England Patriots' reign atop the NFL landscape, they've had quite the cast of characters come in and out of their building. There are 2 main types of players that they've had during that stretch. The mercenary types that they'd bring in for 1 or 2 years to help get the team over the hump, and then the long-haul guys. Guys like Devin McCourty, the players that stuck around sometimes for a decade plus as internal diplomats that liaised between Bill Belichick and the rest of the staff and the players. The Patriots drafted McCourty out of Rutgers with the 27th overall pick in the 2010 draft, and over the last 13 years, he played all over the defensive backfield for them. McCourty was a part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams, made 3 All-Pros, and tacked on 2 Pro Bowls, so needless to say, his imprint was all over the organization and the league, really for nearly a decade and a half. Never mind the fact that he had a twin brother, Jason, who also played in the league for 13 years, which only deepened the McCourty presence in the league. Devin's durability during that stretch really was something to behold. He missed just a handful handful of games, and he never played less than 14 in a season. His last couple of years in New England, however, were a little bit quieter, in part because of Brady's retirement and the subsequent drop in expectations for the organization. So when he ultimately announced his retirement at the beginning of the 2023 offseason, the news just kinda came and went, which is strange for a player of his caliber and notoriety. I think it's partially because he had just done so much work in the media towards the end of his career that so many people were kind of confused about his playing status. A portion of the fans outside of New England thought that he had retired already, while the other half just kept hearing his name in the news, and the fact that he was done playing football really never settled in. But the fact of the matter is, when the 2023 season kicks off, the Patriots' longtime defensive back will be in the booth and not on the gridiron. So here is your early reminder. Don't forget. Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden was quietly one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL ever since the Browns took him 7th overall in the 2010 draft. He just never seemed to get the kind of credit that he really deserved, mostly because he overlapped with guys like Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis, who, in addition to being better players, also created a hell of a lot more noise. Hayden played for the Browns for 7 years, making an All-Pro team in 2013, which coincided with back-to-back Pro Bowl appearances before he jumped ship and joined up with their AFC North neighbor, the Pittsburgh Steelers, hoping to actually compete for a Super Bowl. Unfortunately for Hayden, the kind of team success he was after in the Steel City never materialized, and he actually retired at the beginning of the 2022 season, never having even played in a Super Bowl. And his retirement, much like his career, came and went without much ruckus around it, as he signed a one-day contract with the Browns and rode off into sunset, with most casual NFL fans not even noticing. Kiko Alonso. Kiko Alonso broke into the NFL in 2013 when the Bills took him midway through the second round, 46th overall, out of the University of Oregon. Kiko's career never really hit the heights that people expected it to when he was named PFWA Defensive Rookie of the Year, largely because he continued to battle injuries. But, you know, he was still an extremely serviceable pro for the bulk of his 10-year career. After his 2020 season ended with a failed physical designation and subsequent release, Alonso tried to find his way onto a roster a couple more times, landing on the Saints practice squad in 2022. But he lasted just one day before officially announcing his retirement the following day. Dante Hightower. Dante Hightower has had one of the more successful football careers in recent memory. He started as a true freshman at Alabama and proceeded to win 2 national championships, though one of them came while he was out with a torn ACL in 2009. Then he went on to the NFL, where he had the good fortune of being taken 25th overall by the New England Patriots, where he became an All-Pro linebacker, and of course was a crucial factor in the second leg of the Brady dynasty, helping the Pats win 3 Super Bowls. Help actually might be a bit of an understatement. Hightower was well known for making big-time plays when the pressure was on. There was the legendary strip sack that he had against Atlanta, and a critical tackle at the goal line against Seattle. Then he netted 2 sacks in the epic defensive performance against the Rams in Super Bowl 53. Look, the man could flat out play. But after his contract expired in 2021, Hightower quietly sat out the entire 2022 season, his second in 3 years, as he also opted out in 2020 due to COVID-19. And then, ultimately, he announced his retirement in March of this year via an essay on the Players Tribune. So, if the Patriots are making a playoff push this year, don't expect to see the now 33-year-old surging onto the opponent's backfield. Someone else is going to have to step up now. Maurkice Pouncey. Ever since Maurkice Pouncey was taken 18th overall in the 2010 NFL Draft, he was one of the top offensive linemen in the game. Pouncey was the pinnacle of consistency, making 5 All-Pros and 9 Pro Bowls during his 10 full seasons. And there is really just one season that he was legitimately affected by injuries, which was 2013, when he missed all but 1 game with a torn ACL and MCL when teammate David DeCastro accidentally rolled up on him during a game against the Tennessee Titans. Of course, beyond his explosive play on the field, Pouncey was well known around the league for his brash attitude, perhaps best exemplified by his involvement in the Myles Garrett/Mason Rudolph beef of 2019. Pouncey's retirement came in February of 2021, uncoincidentally alongside his twin brother Mike, as both wrapped up very successful 11-year careers. Clay Matthews. Clay Matthews comes from a long line of Matthews family football players. His brother, father, uncle, and multiple cousins all played in the NFL. So needless to say, he was fairly well known when he was coming up through the ranks as a young player. Matthews, however, was a bit of a late bloomer and had to walk on at USC for Pete Carroll, where he played primarily special teams for the first 3 years on campus. He first got the chance to start when his teammate Brian Cushing, another future NFL star, missed 2 games with an injury in 2007. But it wasn't until he really committed to the gym that following offseason that he became the physically imposing presence that we now know him as today. Once he cracked the starting lineup though, Matthews never looked back. The linebacker parlayed his playing time into being taken 26 overall by the Packers in the 2009 draft. And then he went on to have a fantastic NFL career. He won a Super Bowl, made multiple All-Pros, and was named to 6 Pro Bowls. Matthews last played in 2019 for the Rams, which was the only season he played outside of Green Bay. And he had a renaissance campaign there, netting 8 sacks in 13 games. During the heavily discussed 2020 season, Matthews got his first taste of home life, staying home with the family, and apparently, it just kinda worked for him. The linebacker never ended up returning to the gridiron, instead, officially and quietly retiring ahead of the 2022 season. Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis first joined the NFL as a member of the Carolina Panthers, following him being selected 14th overall out of Georgia in the 2005 NFL Draft. Interestingly, Davis was drafted as a safety before being moved to linebacker during the team's training camp. Unfortunately, the early part of Davis's career was marred by injuries. He missed most of 2009 and 2011, and all of 2010 with consecutive ACL tears. It was after this that he earned the rare distinction of being the first known player to successfully return to active competition after blowing out the same ACL 3 times. And you know, this right here is where Davis's career really started. After returning to action, he was able to make All-Pro and the Pro Bowl for the first time, and was a part of those fierce Panthers defenses in the mid-2010s. Davis first flirted with retirement in 2018, announcing it would be his last season, but perhaps catching a 4-game PED suspension changed his mind. He proceeded to play 2 more seasons outside of Carolina, one with the Chargers in 2019 and half of the 2020 season with the Commanders. During that stretch, it became clear that Davis was done, and Washington released him the following offseason so he could sign a 1-day contract with the Panthers and officially retire with the team that he had made his name on. But what NFL star did you forget retired? Was there anyone that we may have forgot? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. Hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.